So thank you very much. Yeah, I really do love Miracle Whip sandwiches, and when in the good days we would add a little bit of a tomato to them. So if you've never had a Miracle Whip and tomato sandwich, you're missing out. So this is the panel. Today we're going to play a game. Panels can be wildly boring, and that's not the goal. So we're going to play a game of fact or crap. And so we're going to start, get you warmed up a little, by giving you one truth and one lie about each of our esteemed panel members. You're going to get to vote which one you think is a fact and which one you think is crap, and then we're going to take that into the concept of the panel sample debate as well. So let's start with Tanya Feinstein. Feinstein. Good. So let's see. Tanya is a customer experience researcher at Dell. And there are two statements here. I was a crafts counselor at summer camp all through high school, and I was born in Romania. Those are the two statements. If you believe that the craft counselor is true, hold up your fact sign. And if you believe it's not true, hold up your crap sign. Great, so it looks like we have a few more craps. If you believe she was born in Romania, flip them. Yeah, and here we think, so the consensus is born in Romania, which is true. Not born in Romania. Tricked on the very first one. So tell us.
I was born in Moldova, which is part of the Soviet Union, which borders Romania.
Tricky.
But not a crafts counselor. Awesome. All right, our next esteemed panel member, Mindy. Mindy's two statements. I moonlight as a bar mitzvah DJ on the weekends, or I've been married for over a decade. If you believe fact or crap about moonlight as a DJ. Oh, pretty mixed. Fact or crap about married for over a decade. You have the crowd. Oh, a few more facts, which is true.
I've been married over a decade.
Woohoo! And you almost used the second one, which was that you have how many children?
I do have 4 boys, 4 children. Oldest is 10.
Good job. All right, next, Seema. Seema's two statements. I am a radio host of the Forum on the Voice America Network, or I don't believe in passive metering data collection. I think this one's a gimme. But if you believe that the first is true, hold up fact, or if not, hold up crap. And on to I don't believe in passive metering. Fact or crap? Mostly crap, which is true. First one's true. You do believe in passive metering data collection. Great. And then finally, Mr. Wolf, these are my favorite. Jake's first post-birth trip to the hospital was after being impaled by a knitting needle, jumping over a couch in full NASA spacesuit, or Jake married his childhood neighbor at the wedding rehearsal. His father-in-law played a video of their first rehearsal wedding when they were 6 years old. Don't you want both to be true?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one's not, so it means he's very creative with the second one. So, if you believe the first one is true, first one, fact or crap? Pretty more facts, I think. Second one, fact or crap? Yeah, I think they mostly believe the first one is true.
First one is true. 21st birthday.
21st birthday?
Hell of a night. No, I was young at the time.
All right,
but it's true.
Good. All right, so you understand the game now. We're going to extend this into the real point of the panel, and today we're going to talk about the sample debate. You guys can stand, sit, wander, waddle. You can sit on the floor if you want to, whatever you want. So, fact or crap? Global smartphone growth is slowing. If you were in one of my sessions yesterday, I might have given this away a little bit, but fact or crap? Hold them high so we can see them, so I can decide which you believe. Global smartphone growth is slowing. I actually see a few more facts, but there's quite a few people who think it's crap. It's fact. Mary Meeker Internet Trends Report. How many of you guys follow that? How many of you will promise to follow it and Google it when you leave this room? It's all about the internet trends, and if you're in internet research at all, if you're in research at all, you ought to be following it. And so it's a fact that global smartphone growth is slowing. Panel, what does that mean for us? Why do we care?
I can start. More than happy to kick this off. Anybody?
No, go.
Yeah, I find it funny. Honestly, the fact that we still talk about global smartphone. Like, smartphone. What's a smartphone? Like, I mean, I just come in here from LA on the way, and you sit on the plane, right? And obviously it takes about an hour until takeoff. What is every single person on the plane doing while you're sitting there? the fact that this is even a conversation is just, I don't know if it's funny, sad, or whatever it is, but obviously it's backed by the fact that global smartphone growth is slowing. And you might say, well, how does that jive? Well, yeah, every single person has a smartphone, and it's just sad to see that we're not there yet.
Yeah.
I wish we were, but we're not.
Anybody agree? Remember, you can use your signs too. Fact, crap, do you agree with them? Disagree? Audience as well?
I
You
mean,
agree?
I think that the statement itself is a little bit misleading because some researchers who don't want to accept that we need to optimize our surveys and our experience for mobile might look at that and say, oh good, the trend's done. Like we don't need to worry about it. And I agree with Mendy. The reality is that even though it's slowing because everybody has a global smartphone.
It's slowing
So
because it's mature. That's what it means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think for the people who want to take away the fact that this is now even more serious because it's already penetrated versus the trend shifting back.
You want to add anything? No?
No.
All right, what about this one? Voice is beginning to replace typing in online queries. Fact or crap? Voice is beginning to replace typing in online queries. Most people say fact. It is in fact a fact. Also from the Merrymaker Internet Trends Report. So let's talk about this one. Why is this a trend that we would care about?
Hopefully not, because people think it's then now easier to have a lot of open-ended 32-minute text-based surveys. So let's not look at this and say, oh, we can, the solution's here. No one has to type anymore. So.
Do we think that voice is beginning to be involved in our research surveys?
It needs to be. I think a lot of what we do has to mimic what consumers do on a regular basis versus making them do something that's not natural. And, we have all these other voice-activated devices that we're using in our homes and personally.
How many of you in your online surveys are actually tracking how the open end got to the survey? Was it typed or was it put in there by voice? How many of you are tracking that with your panel partners? You should be. I would think you'd be shocked to find that 15% or so of all open ends are actually already being done with the voice to text option through their mobile devices. All right, let's keep going. This one is from the CPR report. If you're not familiar with the CPR report, the Consumer Participation Report, it was actually done by respondents all over the globe. Half of all CPR participants globally are satisfied with their experience. Fact or crap? Mostly crap. Correct, it's crap. What do you think the number is? A quarter. Only 25%. Ouch. Only 25% of all participants globally are actually satisfied with their experience participating in research. So on the panel debate, what's going wrong? What's wrong?
I'm surprised it's 25% are satisfied.
But it's 25% of people who take surveys. So
I'm shocked that it's that high.
Yeah, we have to
that's my point.
Yeah, they've opted out.
It comes down to who's satisfied with the current status quo. It's the people that are doing this not to give an opinion, but for the wrong reasons. People that are rushing through a process to get the carrot at the end. And so if we wind up in a world where 25% of our available universe is who we're getting the opinions from, I mean, not only is it biased, but it's a total waste. You have 75% of people that were at least willing to dip their toe in the water and wound up scared away. Because if you take the time to answer a survey like this and talk about dissatisfaction, at the rate at which we change as an industry, chances are you won't be around to take that study next year.
let me ask a provocative question. How many of your clients hold you accountable as a client? Do you hold accountable as an agency? Do you hold accountable for quality in the survey data? How many of you get held accountable for quality in survey data? And then how many of you have surveys thrown out because the survey wasn't engaging or because the person gave unengaged answers, or you throw out data.
Yeah.
But if only a quarter of all participants are satisfied with the experience, 75% of them are not, is that part of the problem?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gimme question, but I'm trying to get
Yeah.
you to say something. I'm trying to get you to say
I
something
do.
bold.
I'll say one thing. It's not that, and I know this is going to be terrible for me to say this because we're dealing with the core issue, but there is a population of people that are happy sitting doing online surveys.
There are some,
They're-
25%.
And they're older, and this is a way for them to stay connected. It's their pastime. Now, when you bring in the issue of representativeness and who you want to have respond, that's the issue that also plays into this. So I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I know there's a lot of older people who do like taking surveys and have the time to do it. In terms of this, it's a big problem, and I think we're all accountable for it. I don't think it sits on anyone's shoulder, and I think that's one of the reasons we're having this conversation, is to be able to integrate it across all the stakeholders.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing on this.
Don't cheat.
Am I cheating?
Well,
No,
you're seeing this.
They are.
I'll just add one thing. Like, the reality is, I don't think it's a secret anymore that there's a big disconnect between whether it's the research designed to the consumer, the survey to the consumer. There's a disconnect. I think there's, marketers as an example, right? Marketers have to talk to consumers. If you're not talking to a consumer, you're gonna have a problem. Look how many tests are done on ad creatives. How do you reach a consumer? How do you reach a consumer? What message? Which creative? What's done in the research world on that? Why isn't that? It feels like there's for whatever reason, it doesn't. Is there any testing on what's the best method to talk to the consumer you're looking to get feedback from, and why isn't that important? Or maybe it
How
is.
many of you guys have read a paper on survey design in the past year? I bet most of you have read a survey.
Yeah.
There's lots of papers out there. Honestly, if answering honestly as a group, how many of you have read a paper on survey design, taken something from that survey on paper design and survey design, and applied it to your business the following week? Yeah, the number's kind of low. So
You're full of crap, Marco. I don't think we're at 25% on that one.
yeah, we're not. And so we're doing a lot of work. We're doing a lot of good work, quality work, but sometimes the work we do as researchers doesn't get acted on in the boardroom, and oftentimes the work we do in our own backyard doesn't get acted upon in our hallways every day.
But also, we don't always take the time to actually test the surveys, right, before we launch them. To make sure make sure that the questions make sense, to make sure that we haven't, inadvertently missed some answer choices to get people. So you don't want to answer questions that make no sense or don't have the answer available to you.
How many brands do we have in the audience, in consumers? It might be sad when I see this. Okay, how many agencies do we have in the room? Wow. Okay. All right. Good. All right. I feel better. So, as an agency and as a brand, how many of you routinely, personally test the surveys that you put in field? And the number's much smaller. So, okay, that's part of the problem. You're right. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good segue to the next factor crap, and this one's really easy, but I'm leading somewhere, I promise. The design of a survey does not impact the participant's willingness to complete it. Factor crap. Crap for sure. The truth is, it impacts.
I'm going to say fact.
It impacts, well, I guess you could either fact or crap it.
There you go.
It impacts half. It impacts half of all participants' willingness to complete it. I'm building to something here. I'm going to skip this one. This is not all that interesting. Let's do this one next. CPR participants said the survey should be less than 20 minutes in length. Fact or crap? It's actually crap. They said it should be less than 10. 10 minutes. That's how long you have now. 10 minutes on a run to the bathroom, on a wait at the airport, before they make you close your phone, whatever the answer is. You have about 10 minutes now. And it was 20 minutes 5 years ago. I was one of the people that was there 5 years ago saying it's under 20. It was about 17 was where the break happened. Now it's under 10. We haven't figured out 20. How are we going to get to 10? What do you guys think?
Well, one of the reasons our surveys end up being so long is because it's just so expensive, right? Like, we know that we're gonna lose people and whatever if we run a 20-minute survey, but it's the entry cost is so high that it's actually cheaper for us to pay for more sample and make it go from 10 to 20 than to just start over and make 2 surveys.
But what if you had new people coming into the space who are figuring out how to give you similar insights in 2 shorter
That's awesome. That's why I'm here to see like what's available.
Yeah,
with the
think-
caveat that
I mean,
it's
I
the
just
same
feel
price.
like for 5 years we've been sitting here hoping that the people with the same methodology are going to,
Right.
change their tune. When in reality, I think there's a better chance that they'll just go out of business, and people with new methodologies that are capable of delivering actionable insights quicker are going to replace them.
Is that agencies or brands or both or neither? What
Or
do you say,
maybe
Matt?
maybe some new category that that is a hybrid of the two, or
But I mean, who's going
Yeah,
out
I
of
always-
business?
the agencies.
The agencies.
Can we get a fact or crap on that?
Do you guys, fact or crap? Are agencies who can't figure out how to do shorter surveys going out of business? Fact or crap?
Everybody put
Mostly
something
fact.
up. Let's
You
go.
have to vote.
You have to vote.
No
Oh,
abstaining.
we have a couple of,
A few craps,
Yeah.
mostly facts.
Yeah.
Somebody who says crap.
yeah.
Tell us
I-
why, if you're brave enough.
Brian, you saying crap, right?
Somebody. No.
No?
But are you going to figure out how to do surveys in under 10 minutes? Are you going to figure out how to do surveys in under 10 minutes?
Are we going to force people? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Are you going to do more surveys that are less than 10 minutes in length?
I don't know if we will.
Okay? And you don't think it's going to affect your business over time?
Maybe long term, short term, no. I mean, I heard today people are still doing 45 minutes length surveys.
I was
40,
wondering, like,
45 minute. Let
Yeah.
me ask the panel.
We do-
What is the implication of a 45-minute survey? Honestly, what's the implication?
it's not good.
Bad data.
Well, you're going to burn through a lot of sample, and people aren't going to respond, and whoever's responding, you really question their motive for responding, because the reality is, who has 45 minutes to fill out a survey?
Yeah, well, I wonder if we're kind of thinking about the time for a survey incorrectly, right? If it's like, okay, this is dedicated time versus can you kind of feed little, like, kind
Bits
of
and
mini
pieces of
surveys
questions.
over a period of
Yeah.
time for people
Right.
to get the same amount of information.
That's one of the options that's out there: stitching,
Yep.
chunking, modules, bites,
Yeah.
survey whatevers. Yeah, I mean that's one of the options that's out there. And then the reason we don't do that well is because people are worried about the data holding together, and so reticence. But it comes to this next one. Some GRIT participants believe we should forbid fielding mobile unfriendly surveys. Is that fact or crap? Yep, there are some, I mean, it's kind of a gimme too. Some GRIT respondents believe we should actually forbid the fielding of mobile unfriendly surveys. And the reason for that is, I'm going to skip real quick and I'm going to come back. Oops. I think I went too far. Where's the representativeness one? Did I lose it somehow? All right, so I'm going to just wing it for a second. There is a fact from the GRIT report. You guys have the GRIT report in front of you. And the GRIT report said that everyone believes, almost everyone agrees that representativeness is the most important thing facing online sample in general. Representativeness, that's the most important thing that we should all do. If we can't figure out how to get shorter surveys, and we have engagement issues and people are dropping out, and we have a bunch of people that we're not reaching, even if we do everything right in the sample frame building area, can we get to a representative sample?
Just in online?
Yeah.
Just using that
No,
methodology?
so let's make the leap that the frame is representative.
Okay.
But if we get them into a survey that's not representative, that's going to make a bunch of people bail, can you get a representative sample that way? A representative data set.
I think it's very difficult. I mean, if do you guys want to answer? Because I feel like we're talking a lot. I think it's difficult to get a representative sample if you're going to have high abandonment. And again, you got to question if the experience is not conducive for a consumer or a B2B participant, then who is engaging? And it's a small percent of the population, which is not representative.
Yeah, their data could be really different.
And just something, not really answering your question, but just talking about the word representative. I can't stand when representative is just used because it's part of the methodology. I can't tell you how many times people want census rep and, oh my gosh, we're struggling in the 18 to 22-year-olds. What are you looking for? Oh, it's this very specific insurance that you get in retirement. It's like, come on. Or you go to a country where you want census rep, where the online penetration rates vary so differently from what the census stats are. So I think one of the issues with this, people use the word representativeness because it's just part of their methodology. And there's a disconnect by the time you actually get down to fielding the study and procuring the sample. Like, do you even really want, or do you even really need representative? representativeness.
Well, sometimes it's actually impossible to tell if there's representative. I mean, we're recruiting like procurement people in Japan to, fill out a survey. Like, there's no way. Like, I can't weight it to anything. Like, I have no idea what that population looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do agree there's caveats to which audience you're trying to research.
Okay, I think you might have seen this one when I went through it a little bit more. If survey design is an issue and it's causing abandon, it's causing people to fall out and you're ending up with some in-survey representativeness issues, agencies are the most open to survey design consultation from the sample companies, fact or crap?
Oh.
You guys, definite crap. You guys have the crap signs. Agencies are actually the least, according to the GRIT report. They have the least interest in design feedback. Why do you think that is? Why are agencies, as a buyer, let me ask Tanya,
that's good.
do you
All right.
expect that your agencies are working consultatively and collaboratively with sample companies on survey design?
Yeah, I would expect that. I don't know that they are. But I've never, I mean, usually when we engage with an agency, there's like the one person that we talk to and whatever's going on in the background. But I've never had an experience of like, okay, we've developed this questionnaire and then the sample provider has something to say about it. I've never experienced that other than like just with the screening criteria, very
Because you work
very
mostly through
specifically.
agencies, right? And so the agencies hold that part of it?
It's a mix, but we don't, like right now, we don't go kind of directly to sample. So if we do that, it's kind of our internal client list. So
Do we have any agencies in the room that would be willing to speak to this one? Why are agencies not all that interested in survey feedback from the sample companies? Is it because it feels like it's self-serving? Like, is it because they feel like it's about price? Like, why? If we believe that surveys need to be redesigned, over here. Why are agencies?
So mostly, I don't think I agree with the statement. I think agencies are open to consultation from the sample companies because it's in our best interests. I think when you see the lack of openness, it's from the knowledge that the client has already decided what they want, and no further consultation from anyone is going to change that.
Do you think that's fair,
Yeah,
buyer?
I just have an
I
open
think that's
question.
fair.
Just a quick question for you personally. I mean, do you think that when you're going to cultivate a new relationship with a brand, I mean, do you think there would be value in bringing your sample partner into the room? I mean, do you think that they're a viable enough part of whatever it is that makes you tick, and whatever value proposition you're presenting to a brand, that a co-pitch or a collaborative pitch would make sense, or is the time that you have with that person, that wouldn't be a valuable use of your time?
There have been rare occasions when we've considered that, but frankly, it's a practicality issue. There's the phenomenon of who's going to go full service and who's going to go DIY. We would think long and hard about bringing in a partner that they might decide to cut out the agency.
Okay.
So this is kind of the core of what I was wanting to get at, is this kind of brokenness that exists between the sample companies and the agencies, and the safeguarding and turf protecting that exists naturally as people, but that is the very thing that is causing us not to make progress in this area. Because some of the information isn't getting to the Dells of the world, some of the Dell information isn't getting to the sample companies of the world, and there's a block that's based on real world fears. And so the question is, how do we get past it?
Very simple. Change is hard, and change is happening in front of our eyes. Everybody sees it. I know there's not a lot of words there, but I think many people understand what that means. It's
Crap.
very hard to change.
Jake calls crap.
I want more words. I want to know. I want to hear what you're thinking.
There's been a recent, I shouldn't say a recent, but I know we sit here and we sit here on these panels and this industry, we complain a lot and complain. But I remember, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago, it was at IIeX, and the question to the audience, I don't think it was effect or crap, but there was a question whether automation is a viable option. This was just 2 or 3 years ago.
I think I asked that question in my automation speech.
Okay, and there were a lot of no's. Automation is bad. Ask that question today. You're telling me nothing changed? Maybe some people aren't changing, doesn't mean there isn't change in the industry. If you ask the question, fact or crap, is automation a real option? I know I'm leading with it, and Mike's going to be the only one giving me a hard time saying crap, but I think everybody sees it. So change is really difficult, but change is happening.
Somebody else?
I think, anybody want? I think the reality is that if you're running a business, either an agency business or a sample business, if you don't see movement, you're going to have to make decisions to be able to grow your business. And I think, unfortunately, that's causing the friction between the agency and the sample companies.
And I worked for I've been internal and I've worked for an agency, and once we had a client come to us and say, we want to do a 20-minute survey, 25-minute survey of IT decision makers. And like we went back and forth with the sample company and we went back to the client and we're like, made a deck like trying to talk them out of this. And they just gave it to another agency, right? It was because they wanted to do a 25-minute survey.
Yep.
Here's the thing, like back to the gentleman that gave his response to Jake's question around whether or not you'd bring a sample company in. I mean, me understanding the answer was, I think there's value, but we can't because it could hurt our business because they might go directly to you. So it doesn't mean it's not valuable. It means that there could be value, but it's a business decision not to. So that's called disruption,
Yeah, but
right?
you don't
There's
go
a
to an
disrupting factor right there.
You don't go to a full service agency because you don't know that there are sample providers. I mean, you wanted to go directly to a sample provider.
If you want
he's
to do that,
afraid
you do that either. If they brought the sampling company with them, wouldn't that actually be less concerning? Wouldn't that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a timing issue because it depends. I mean, personally, I don't want this. I don't want 25 people in every meeting, right? So if I hire an agency, I expect them to negotiate that behind the scenes. That's why I have an agency. That's why I'm not doing it all myself with me and my intern. So I expect that kind of coordination, and it can't be at the end, right? So it can't be like, okay, we've done this survey of all the execs have signed off on it. We have the budget. It's gone through procurement. Like, oh wait, no. It's got to be different now. And well, then I lose my credibility, right? Because I've been promising this research to all of these people, and now it needs to be all changed. It creates a huge problem. So it needs to be done kind of thoughtfully and early.
Anybody else on what can we do to break the walls down to actually collaborate more? I mean, that's the heart of it, right? We all know there's a problem, but we're all going to leave tomorrow and we're going to go back to our siloed worlds. And how do we prevent that? I mean, I'm seriously asking a question I do not know the answer to.
Well, can I ask a question to Tanya?
Yeah.
Tanya, how would you feel if an agency came in and said, listen, we know you want this research. In order to get this research, we need to design an experience for the audience that you want to get information from in a very unique way. And here are some key factors that we have to consider. And oh, by the way, I brought, maybe they bring or they don't bring, but they're sampling expert to kind of provide advice and counsel. Do you see differentiation in that research agency for saying, oh my gosh, at the end of the day, we are speaking to people and we need to optimize that experience to get the best data? Or is it?
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. But the reality of it is somebody has budget for a project, and there's this, I don't know if anybody else uses this term, we call it koala research, where it's just like, okay, I'm just going to add a couple of questions to this and add a couple of questions to that.
Group grope, that's what we Group grope. Yeah. So it goes through group grope.
Yeah, because the cost of entry is so high, right? And especially, usually we're dealing with specialized audiences. Right. We are looking for procurement people in Japan, right? And this is like the one thing, like the one time we can do it. So it gets, it just can get out of hand very quickly. But that kind of stuff, that kind of consultative, like we're going to bring in our sampling expert, that's great. It just needs to be done early.
Okay.
All right, so this one's also kind of a gimme. We don't agree on much, including survey design, what's a blocker, what affects pricing, factor crap. Let's see, fact. Yeah, so we don't agree on much. One of the other findings from the GRIT report, representativeness matters, mobile's a problem. We also don't agree on pricing is the point of this one. We don't agree on pricing at all. We don't agree that pricing goes up when you have a bad mobile experience. We don't agree that to do it well you have to have, I mean, we've all been chasing faster, better, cheaper for a really long time. Right. And we're not willing to accept that there might be a wall we've hit and we can't go much faster and we can't go much cheaper without actually affecting quality and abandon rates. And so what do you say about this one?
Jake?
Nothing? The
I
audience?
mean, it's the same,
Andy?
Yeah.
kind of in the same topic that we've been talking about with all of these. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the chain and how things go down the line.
I guess I'll, sorry, go ahead.
All yours.
I was just going to say, I know we've identified kind of the challenges between the agency and the sample companies. I also think there's an issue within end clients to
And, agencies.
right, and agencies that there's a lack of awareness of the challenges that the sample companies are having, and so
Tanya's different because she's worked at an agency, but many haven't, and she isn't even fully aware, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, I had a guy in London on this type of panel, and he's like, I don't even think about sample. It's the last thing on my mind. I worry about the questionnaire.
And the fact that there are no brands in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the
Well,
great
that's
sample
telling.
debate, and there's no brands in the room.
Well, Tanya said that right? You rely on the agency to get it done, so why should they be here? They're paying the agency to get that job done. Why should they?
But the buyers are making the rules on how long the surveys are, and they're not involved in the conversation.
That's what the
really
agency's
the
getting paid to
problem.
do,
Yeah,
to
but,
handle that,
I mean,
right? Isn't that?
my analysis of it is we've set the recruiting criteria, right? Like that was the first thing with the engagement with the agency, and if that changes, like, yeah, like I get it, you need to reevaluate sample, you need to do more testing, more incidence testing, or whatever, like the feasibility testing, but like after that, I don't know like what more conversation needs to happen.
Yeah. By the way, Tanya signed up for this.
Yes.
All right, so we have about 2.5 minutes left, and so I told them that they'd each get a chance to say something smart and witty, and then we'll turn to you guys to challenge us or to have your own opinions. But let's start with Mindy. He raised his hand.
Oh, I was going to say I'll finish, but I'm happy
All
to
right.
start. Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I'm very optimistic. Like I know we're sitting here and saying about the problems of 45-minute surveys and 30-minute surveys and 20-minute surveys and mobile and not mobile, but I do see change happening in front of our eyes. I think I shared at SampleCon itself, like when the question was posed around what's the future of sample, right? What's sample going to look like in 3 years? And my response to that, and what I truly believe in, is today is the future of sample. Every single day, something is happening in front of our eyes, and we're impacting the future of sample. And if you think about one example of automation, right? 3 years ago, that was a total crap. Nobody believed in it. Today, it's not even a question. It's only 3 years. That's a short stint. LeBron has just been in with the Cavs for 3 years, right? LeBron fans, we won't go there. My point is that I do think there's a lot of change happening for the positive. I think the issue is maybe it's not happening as quick as we'd all like, but it is happening, and I'm super excited and optimistic about the future of this industry.
Who else?
I was just going to say my biggest problem is I have internal clients who believe that all of the survey data is people lying.
Oh gosh.
So those conversations are going on internally at companies.
They believe they're lying?
They're lying.
Based on what?
Well, I have one internal client whose hobby it is to lie on surveys to figure out, just to demonstrate that he can get past screening. So.
That's
yes.
a hobby, though. So you think that's everybody's hobby?
Well, I think it's a weird hobby,
That's
but
a weird hobby.
it's definitely a concern, especially when we're looking for specialized audiences and we're dealing with product research about like what kinds of whatever you want in the future, or doing conjoint tests, and we go in and we look at the structure of the data and we try to convince them think maybe some people are lying, but we actually have these factual questions that you can't Google, and we're like. We spend a lot of time, but everyone should know that there is that opinion out there that people are lying on surveys.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely know that, and there are some people who lie on surveys, and unfortunately, when you make surveys really painful, the ones who last are the ones who lie.
Oh,
right?
yeah. No,
But sorry, we're running out of time. Jake?
Yeah, I mean, just real quick, my one thing was if you look at the ad world and you look at the supply chain that exists in the ad world, it is actually seen as a supply chain, whereas I think in our world, in the MR world, there's not this concerted effort to get educated on the entire supply chain the way that there is in the advertising world. And I think that some people out there, whether it's agencies, whether it's brand, would be really excited and interested to know that there's cool things happening all through the supply chain, and efficiencies at any point help everybody involved. So I think if people took the time to get educated, they would be surprised with what's out there and what they could do.
Okay, how about you, Seema?
I'm hopeful. I'm ever hopeful. I do believe. I think at SampleCon, Melanie, you kind of challenged us and said, and I believe it was you, but where do all the crappy surveys go? And many panel companies are still doing those surveys, and I think. Looking at a big goal is really scary, but breaking it down into little steps is really important. And I think we've started turning down surveys that are just going to kill our panel. It's not worth it. It's short-term revenue, but it's not worth it because we need to protect our asset and really work with the people who understand the issues. And we will take a hit for that in the short term, but we think long term it's going to pay off.
Cool. Thank you.